Good evening. We are thrilled to have you join us for this first virtual community conversation. This is the first of many virtual conversations we hope to have with our community as we find ways to connect to those in these times of social distance. A few notes before we begin. Can we go to slide 2? Thank you. This meeting is available in both English and Spanish. If you would like to hear this conversation in Spanish, select Language Preference in the toolbar and then select Spanish. The meeting is being recorded and will be available on our website at www.mapleton.us.
Para tener acceso a la conversación comunitaria en español, haga clic en el enlace de la reunión del Zoom, haga clic en la barra de herramientas donde dice Language Preference, seleccione español. Una vez que seleccione español, todos los presentadores serán silenciados excepto el intérprete.
Community conversations are a place for celebrating our community and encouraging the exchange of ideas and information from all district stakeholders. Thank you for helping to keep this a forum for healthy, helpful, and hopeful conversations. Questions? Please type your question in the Q&A box at any time. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time and do not get to your question, we will be publishing answers to all questions on the Mapleton Connects webpage. My name is Cindy Croissant, and I am honored to serve as the president of Mapleton's Board of Education. I served on the board from 2003 to 2011 and was excited to be elected again to serve again in 2015. My family moved to the Mapleton community in 1959. I, along with my siblings, attended Western Hills, John Dewey Junior High, and Mapleton High School. Thanks to the generosity of this community, over the past 10+ years, all of those schools have been transformed into beautiful learning environments with the latest technology. I stayed in this community to remain close to my family. My daughter graduated from Skyview High School in 2004 and went on to earn her bachelor's from Johnson & Wales University and a master's in business from the University of Aberdeen in Aberdeen, Scotland. Lately, the thing that keeps me busy when I'm not working is my grandson. He will be turning 3 in about 3 months. He loves to read, so we spend hours with his books. Family time and giving back to the community are top on my list. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, my name is Patty Velasquez, and I am pleased to serve as the Assistant Secretary Treasurer of Mapleton's Board of Education. I was appointed to the board in November of 2019, and I'm honored to serve this community with this work. My family has been a part of Mapleton for about 8 years, and both my 7-year-old and 9-year-old boy attend Mapleton online. And although they miss being in class with their friends, they are enjoying remote learning. I am passionate about volunteering as a way to connect with the community and to give back, and to work towards a brighter future that benefits everyone. During these uncertain times, my family, like many others, are trying to figure it out and just making the best that we can. I just want to encourage parents, educators, and students to remember the big picture. This is a time to focus on and be grateful for your family's safety, health, and well-being. We will get through this together. I'm just grateful to be a part of such a strong and resilient community. We are also joined by Charlotte Sancho, Superintendent of Mapleton Public Schools, and Dr. Damon Brown, our Deputy Superintendent of Organizational Systems and Community Engagement. For our agenda this evening, we would like to start by introducing you to Mapleton Connects, share a video highlighting the work of our teachers as we return to school this year, and then share a bit about who we serve in our schools and provide an update on the progress of our reopening.
As a board, community engagement is always the best way to learn from, listen to, and involve you, our community, in our mission and our work. Our new Zoom world makes it possible for us to make more valuable virtual connections so we continue to build relationships that strengthen our schools and our community. You may remember in 2018, we introduced the idea of board director districts to assure that Mapleton's board members could stay connected, visible, and responsive to the needs of their neighbors and neighborhoods. The proposal was approved by our community's voters by a large margin. There are 5 members of the Board of Education, and the work we get to do on behalf of Mapleton's families is both rewarding and humbling. We thank you for the opportunity to serve your family. If you would like to find out which district you live in or which board member serves your neighborhood, please visit our website for an interactive map. Our community conversations are a part of a bigger initiative we are calling Mapleton Connects. We all play an important role in keeping our community safe, healthy, and strong. We hope to explore those roles together through Mapleton Connects. We like to think of Mapleton Connects as an umbrella term that encompasses the many ways you can stay engaged, get involved with Mapleton Public Schools. We hope our community will use Mapleton Connects to keep the momentum, so when we are once again able to cheer on the Skyview Wolverines from the stands of DeTiro Stadium, listen to the beautiful sounds of our performing arts groups in our new Mapleton Arts Center, or attend a family math night at school, we'll be ready.
Mapleton Connect is about staying connected while keeping a safe distance, building our network to support each other along the way, strengthening our community by celebrating the contributions we all can make to ensure strong schools and a strong community. Learn more about Mapleton Connect online. You can find upcoming events, resources, videos, and more at your Mapleton Connect site, at our Mapleton Connect site. Our community conversations are a chance for the Mapleton community to check in with each other, find ways to connect and to support each other, and contribute to build a vibrant community through meaningful connections. Please save the dates for upcoming community conversations, where we will discuss current events and ongoing initiatives in our district and in our community.
Sorry about that. That's what you get with virtual meetings. I was on mute. I apologize. Back in August, we introduced you to a reopening plan that carefully outlined the proactive measures we knew we would need to assure that we were providing the best possible experience for Mapleton students, where the rewards of attending school outweighed the risks. An important but difficult part of this plan has meant that we are unable to open our schools to our families and community. This way, we are so used to doing what we are so used to doing. I apologize. Since we cannot welcome you into our schools, we thought we would bring our schools to you through a video. In our first installment of Delivering on a Dream, the Promise of Mapleton video series, Mapleton teachers share how they transformed this experience from a challenging to an opportunity and continued delivering instruction in innovative and engaging ways. Please enjoy.
A small but growing number of schools around the country are shutting their doors to try to stem the spread of the coronavirus. That includes a number of colleges and universities. It is just a fraction of public, elementary, and high schools. But so far, more than 620 schools have closed or are scheduled to close.
When the COVID issue really started, we had some small planning conversations about like what it would be like. But then when we got the call, I think it was on a Thursday, because I remember I had my club kids after school, and it was like, kids are not coming back tomorrow.
It was a whirlwind. We went to a staff meeting and said, hey, this might happen in a couple days. Get ready for remote learning.
So there were 2 weeks where like the kids didn't see each other and the teachers didn't see each other, and we had no idea what was going on. And so then when everyone came back, it was really about connecting. I thought those first like 2 weeks, we weren't really teaching, we were just doing like tech support. Like there were lots of phone calls about like what button to press on the screen.
We had to pull together iPads and packets and all these things that we thought, you know, kids might need for a couple weeks, because we thought we'd be out of school a couple weeks. We didn't realize we'd miss the whole last 3 months of school.
It forced us to make some changes that we might not have made otherwise, like smaller class sizes. So we, you know, I have 15 students in a class now, whereas before I might have had 30. So I really get to know where they are at what they're learning, really get to know them as students. The Chromebooks have been a great thing. The school has Chromebooks for every kid now, so they're one-to-one. For this school year, we have our neighborhood rotation. Every rotation, we take one day that we're going to, or that we have been pretending that we are online. The kids are all physically in the room with us, but everybody's got their headsets on, using Canvas, using Teams. We do our video meeting. They get all of their instruction there, having them practice not only sending messages to us requesting help, but sending messages to one another so that way they can still collaborate.
I want to say online teaching and learning is an opportunity for innovation. We were starting this brand new online school. We knew that there had to be consistency and stability for our families, and just that strong foundation that all kids need to learn. And it really filled a niche for some of these families that needed that online education.
I think as a science teacher, it was really important that we still were able to do hands-on and like inquiry-driven science, that it wasn't just fill out this page in the workbook. Like we use this room, the bridge, as our lab, because it's a big space. We have all the tables, and the students can still stay spread out even though they're using the lab equipment. The last several years, one of the kind of key 7th grade projects is they construct a bridge, and they get to choose their materials. We get to do lots of experimenting. The week before that was when we all got sent home. So now that I have that neighborhood in my rotation again, they're finishing that project. So we're approaching it from a different direction. We're talking about it in terms of writing and making estimates, educated guesses, supporting your theory with evidence. But then they get to still complete that project.
My student teacher is teaching language arts. Good, Maddox. Good complete sentence. We're meeting speaking and listening standards through playing Simon Says. They have to speak in complete sentences and speak clearly, and kids have to follow directions. And so that's, you know, getting creative on what games we can play online.
Okay, on the count of 3, you guys have to go find a toy that you can hug.
In kindergarten, we just got to be creative and meet those standards with the same rigor and relevance that you would in the brick and mortar classroom.
I just wanted to say how amazing like the team of teachers that I work with this year is. I think we realized at the beginning of this that we were all going to need to be on the same page, and that we were going to all be working really closely together. And so the 6th, 7th grade teachers have really been like focused on, you know, meeting every week and touching base and figuring out the best way to support kids together. I feel like in a way there's a lot more flow of information. Instead of everybody sitting in their little corner, we all meet each other because we're all getting used to this new thing. So we're all sharing a lot more, I think, than we were comfortable sharing previously. What we're experiencing right now may very well rewrite the book that we're teaching new teachers with, because this is so different than what we were trained for, what the kids are used to, what our community is used to.
If I could tell anybody anything, you know, we're all doing the best we can, and we're learning a lot about patience and grace with each other, and
You know, we're learning together. We're in this together.
Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm Charlotte Chancho. I've had the privilege of serving as the superintendent here in Mapleton Public Schools for nearly 20 years now. Before that, I served as a teacher here in the district and also as an administrator. But most importantly, I was born and raised in this district, and my 9 siblings and I were all educated here in the district, as well as my children, my cousins, nieces, nephews, all have been educated here. My son graduated from Academy High School in 2008, and as of right now, I have 3 of my daughters, 2 of my nieces and nephew, 4 of my grandchildren, all working and learning all across the school district. I'm very proud to serve our community. As we reopened our schools this past August, we developed our plan around 6 building blocks. You'll see those in the purple part of your screen. Those were healthy communities, healthy buildings, healthy classrooms, healthy schedules, healthy activities, and healthy policies. These layers of protection are providing, well, really they're proving to just be invaluable as we keep our schools open and thriving in the midst of this pandemic. As one of the smaller Adams County school districts, we currently serve 6,638 students, plus another 2,274 students in our contract school called Colorado Connections Academy. You can see how our demographics fall out as of last year at this time, and we're still verifying the October count from this year, so we'll be able to update those numbers very soon. But I anticipate they'll be very, very similar to what they were last year. One of the most challenging parts of our work this year is monitoring how COVID-19 is impacting our community and our schools. We work very closely with Tri-County Health, actually every single day, and pay very close attention to the rise and fall of the case counts each day. This slide is actually one of the slides from the Tri-County dashboard, and you can see that, you can see from this slide, the orange area there represents Adams County, the red is Arapahoe County, and that greenish color is Douglas County, and that's the number of cases. You can see that Adams County is very, very high, and the spike continues to grow. Also using the Tri-County dashboard, we monitor how the incident rates look within the boundary of the Mapleton community, not within our schools, but all around them. This slide that you're seeing is since they first started and not the 14-day rolling number. The 14-day rolling number that we saw that you can see when you pull this up by school district will show Mapleton's footprint, not just, but not at all what's happening in our schools, but what's happening in the boundary of our school district. Then we look a little deeper into what's actually happening within our schools. And looking at those numbers, they are also on the rise. We're following this exact same pattern as our community. Each day, we update our district dashboard that you can find on our district website. These numbers are current as of today. The impact of this virus within our classrooms is also part of our daily review. This graph shows the number of cohorts that have been rolled to remote. So the green bars show you the cohorts that were rolled out but have since returned, while those gold bars show you who's out and when they will return. Right now, as of today, we have 36 cohorts that are rolled to remote. We're in the process of planning for second semester. Just last week, we released a survey asking our families currently attending school in person how they want to attend school second semester. We should have the results of that survey very soon, and depending on what we hear, we'll be planning to address to the very best of our abilities. As you know, this pandemic is a dynamic and ever-changing challenge. We will continue to do our very best to keep you informed and up to date in the timeliest of fashions. We know that having students roll to remote is a very difficult process for everyone. We're considering every possible conceivable way to serve the kids with our community's interests in mind. We know that as the information we get changes, we must stay nimble. Jeez, I'm sorry about that. We need to be able to make changes as we go and be just as nimble as the information comes in. We're committed to making our decision with as much advance notice as possible, so please stay connected as we learn more. We know that many of you tuned in this evening because you have questions, and we want to be able to respond to as many of your questions as we can. There is a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, so please type in your question, and again, we will do our very best to respond to them this evening. For those we are unable to answer or simply because we run out of time, we'll put the answers on the community conversation page of the Mapleton Connect section on our website. Now, we've already received a few questions, so our board members will get us started as I plan to monitor the Q&A section.
Great.
Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and answer this. Or Cindy, are you answering this very first one? How does Mapleton ensure that?
No, I think I was supposed. I was planning to answer the second one, I believe.
Perfect. Well, let me tackle this first one. How does Mapleton ensure that each school has quality teachers and rigorous instruction? There are pretty high standards in the state of Colorado for teachers to be licensed. All of our teachers that serve in Mapleton Public Schools are licensed educators. The majority of our teachers have master's degrees and are very, very skilled educators. The rigorous instruction comes from us monitoring the standards that are set not only by the state of Colorado, but also that have been adopted by our Board of Education. So we have the same standards and rigorous expectations as all other districts have in the state of Colorado. So we're making, that's one of the ways we monitor the skill set of our teachers. They all have coaches, they all have a supervision model that we monitor at how to support them. We see where they have great strengths that we can capitalize on and train other teachers. And then we also see where there are some gaps, and so able to get them the professional development they need to support the kids in their learning. So I think hopefully I responded to that one. Are Mapleton graduates leaving high school at the same level as neighboring district graduates?
So Charlotte, I can take that one. So
Great.
the way I'm interpreting the question, I'll answer in the way that I'm thinking this question is being asked. And the answer is, in some respects, I believe we may be leaving our graduates are leaving this school very well prepared and maybe possibly better prepared than some of our neighboring districts. I don't look at all of their numbers, but we have graduates at about a 98% rate being accepted into post-secondary education. Now, that doesn't mean they all go to post-secondary education opportunities. That may be due to funds, or that, you know, they may change their mind. Something could have happened in their life. They moved away or whatever. But our graduates are meeting the state standards, meeting our standards for graduation, and being accepted into post-secondary education opportunities.
Great. Thank you.
Next, I think, Charlotte, you may have to answer this. Plans for snow days versus remote days.
This was a big question with the kids. They wanted to know what we were going to do about that. So I wanted to make sure I responded to that as well. It really is dependent on when the snowstorm comes in, and also how long, what the duration of that snowstorm is expected to be. So the last time we called a snow day was because I did anticipate that that snow was coming in. However, we did not plan ahead. It was a Monday. And so we didn't assure on that Friday that everyone had their computers with them, had all the information that they were going to need. And so we were not thinking it was probably prudent for the entire community to be expected to be remote. Additionally, some questions came in around, well, what about the online school? Why does it make any sense that they would have a snow day? Because they're remote in. The issue with that is the teachers are not necessarily remote. So many of our teachers actually drive into this building where I'm sitting right now and do their online work with students. So being able to assure that our staff is safe as well as our student safety during those snow days is important to us. So we'll keep in mind, if this is a short duration storm, if it came up rather quickly, it'll be a snow day. If it ends up being something that's longer that we can anticipate, it might be that one day is a snow day so teachers can prepare for the kids and the next be remote. It really depends on kind of where we are and when the storm shows up. And Patty, did you want to get the next one?
Sure. I believe that there's a lot of ways a community can get involved and sit at those kind of tables where a lot of the decision-making process happens. There are several, whether that's within, I know that with COVID, it's a little bit harder at the, parent kind of groups at schools. It's kind of not happening currently, but there's other, kind of committees that you can sit on and participate. I believe they're all listed on our website if you're interested in participating on any of those. It has the type of committee, the work that the committee does, as well as who to contact if you want to be a part of those committees and join and help us make some of these decisions that sometimes are not easy to make when it's impacting our community. And, I think we always come to those committees with wanting to do what the community needs and how can we best serve them, but that's not always easy said and done. So if you want to have a voice in helping us with those decisions, we highly encourage you to go to our website and look at all of the committees that you can participate on and volunteer and help us out.
Great. As I'm looking through some of these questions, there are many that are really asking the same kind of questions. So I'm going to try to address those as a bigger response. Hopefully I will attend to several all at once. The questions are, I'm seeing quite a few questions with regard to going remote. I'm seeing several questions with regard to student testing and being able to test for COVID. So let me start there. We are working with COVID Check Colorado, which is the company that we work with to test all of the employees. We started that process in August with all of our employees. It is a voluntary program for all employees. We can set up kind of a rotation to go every 2 weeks for this test, but certainly could go more often or less often depending on how you're feeling, or if you think you've been exposed and you want to get tested again. I personally go every 2 weeks and have that test done just to make sure that I'm doing my part and not exposing anyone else. So it is it has been voluntary and available for everyone. We had a pretty good participation rate with our teaching staff at the very beginning. We continue to have a good participation rate with our teachers, although not quite the same level that we had when we first started. Because COVID Check is expanding their service across the state, they're also offering us the option, just the voluntarily, if students want to be tested in Mapleton. It would not ever be required that anyone would be tested here. It would be an option. COVID Check, they are not doctors on site. It is we use the drive-through process right now. Most of what we get is the nasal swab. It is not the kind of deep swab. It's actually pretty mild and not too invasive. They also were offering the saliva test recently, and several of us have attempted that test. That test is still kind of in a trial mode. They're piloting it right now and trying to improve the predictability and the, I guess, being able to trust those results right now. So we've been part of this pilot. We're trying the saliva test, seeing if there's how the results come out. Sometimes they'll pull those back and they'll make some adjustments and then let us try it again. So that saliva test is still really in trial mode. As soon as it's perfected, as soon as it's a little more reliable, that would be the one that would be the option for our kids. Until that happens, we would be offering the option, again, this is all voluntary, if anyone wanted to have the test done at school. Right now, the COVID Check Colorado is allowing, if anyone wants a child enrolled in Mapleton to be tested, we can give you our sites. We can get you scheduled and you can go now. It's free of charge. No one is paying for it. You're not paying for any of that. It doesn't get charged to anyone. Someone asked, well, would we have to do a recheck if it came back positive before the kid could come back? We right now have been very satisfied with the results of COVID Check. They're very, very reliable. And so if we have gotten a positive case, we trust that it is positive. We really have not seen any false negatives or false positives at this point. So it's been a trustworthy kind of a test that we've been confident in. So we're still working with COVID Check. We don't have all those details out. We're really trying to figure out if we can get that started before the Thanksgiving break. But again, it's kind of a moving target, but we're very interested, if you are, in providing that to your kids, if that's something you want. So hopefully that answered all your questions about the testing. It would be, if we're able to do it on site, it would be in their school building. And so it would be something that would be offered every couple of weeks. Again, voluntary. We would need your permission. We certainly, absolutely would not test a kid whose parent didn't want that to happen. So that's that about COVID Check and about the testing. The remote conversation is a little bit trickier, and asking about when this rolls out. Right now, we have been paying attention to whenever anyone in the cohort tests positive. If there's anyone in the cohort, a student, a teacher, a staff member, anybody who has interacted with the cohort for more than 20 minutes or in an area that's been closer than the 6 feet, then the cohort is rolled to remote for a 2-week quarantine. This is in pretty tight conversation with Tri-County Health. We do have an epidemiologist that we work with several times a day and run every single scenario past them to make sure we're not missing anything. We are really working to assure that we can keep kids in the buildings as often and as safely as we can. We've seen, I think, 3 or 4 cases that may have been transmitted within a school environment, but the majority of the cases have not transmitted within our schools. The positive COVID tests are coming in to our schools. So something from a household member or a party that somebody was at, or some of our staff members are bringing the COVID into the classrooms, but we are not seeing transmission in the schools. We believe that's because we are following the protocols pretty carefully. Everyone is masked in our classrooms, kindergarten up. Now, some of our preschools, we can't quite keep those masks on, but from kindergarten through 12th, people are being very, very responsible and attentive to wearing their masks. We're also working to keep the 6-foot distancing. That's not always possible. Under the guidance of CDPHE for schools, we're able to get into more of a 3-foot distancing, especially when we have the plexiglass divisions or dividers between the desks. We're able to do that. The cohorts are switching every few weeks depending on the instructional model at the school, and each one is pretty dependent on the school. If and when we were to get to a point where we would have 5% of the whole group, so staff included, kids who would test positive or who come in with a positive test, the school would roll out to remote. So it's kind of a dependent school-based, and then there might be something we look at district-wide, but right now it's been cohort, neighborhood. So some of the neighborhoods roll out depending on how they interface with one another. And then the next step would be a school if there were significant numbers of people who are testing positive from that school. Right now, we are well below the threshold of 5%, so we wouldn't need to necessarily do that. Let me see if I want to just make sure I'm kind of looking at all these. One of the questions is about our dashboard, if that includes the kids on remote. We do include the kids on remote on the dashboard because we're also monitoring the staff and the students who test positive even though they're not here. So yes, that does include the number of kids who actually are served in Mapleton. We keep track of that for a number of reasons. One is because kids who are remote and positive also we need to make sure that especially if they're ill and they're not able to participate, that we are able to catch them up and keep them up on their instructional program. So yes, that does include that. Let's see.
Charlotte, this is Cindy.
Yes.
Can you answer one of the questions, and I'll know you, because you deal with it every day, you'll be able to answer it much better. It says, how is the final decision made for moving a cohort to remote? Basically saying sometimes it's inconsistent that they may or may not go, and I think there might be, sometimes it's a longer 10 days or 14 days. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. So a cohort is always, again, working with Tri-County and our epidemiologists, we look at when the person, whoever is the positive case, when that person either was the last time they were with a cohort or when they tested positive. So we have to look at when was the last time anyone could have been infected. Sometimes we will have a student who hasn't been in school since Monday, for example, because they weren't feeling great, but they didn't get their test until Thursday, but they hadn't been in school. So it goes on the last time they were in school, not necessarily when they tested. So if their last day was Friday, the week before, and they didn't test until Thursday, it's 14 days from the last time the cohort interacted with them. So whether that's, last Friday, it only takes them the 10 school days or the 14 days to roll back. The person with COVID themselves, if they haven't been in school, they're able to return after 10 days from their symptoms or an infection, or a positive result. So the person themselves that were tested positive could return after 10. A cohort returns 14 after the last time they interacted with the positive person. So it does it might feel like it's inconsistent for people, but we are really intentional of making sure that calendar is guiding everything. When was the last time this person was in the building? When was the last time this person interacted with kids in that cohort? And then that is counted out. They're out 14 days, the 15th day is the return. So I hope that answers the question. Let's see.
Charlotte, there is another question that I think might be helpful to answer,
Okay.
About what is done with the results of the testing. It says, what do you want to do with the results? And I think for me, is that also as a community member, like what happens when children get tested, what happens with those results and who gets them?
So we don't see results from kids currently. So we aren't seeing any of the community results. Tri-County Health does, however. CDPHE and Tri-County Health are monitoring all of the test results, whether they're through COVID check or they're through your doctors or they're through the test over at Waterworld. Those all go through kind of CDPHE and Tri-County Health, and they keep track of all that. We do not. We do get the information about our staff. We really pay attention. We get notified at all hours of the day if someone is testing positive. We don't hang on to those results for any reason other than to assure that person is safe and the cohort that they've been working with is also safe and they're able to roll to remote. So there's not we don't keep a data warehouse or anything like that from people. If there was something, if we started testing students, again, we would not be keeping that data unless it comes in as a positive. We would inform the parent that this result came in positive, although COVID check would also inform the parent right away. Just again, so we can plan around that information. So that's what's going on right now with that. What else are we seeing that's a pretty big, that would hit lots of these questions? I'm seeing some about Adams 12 was announced today that they're going to go remote until January, and what's different here than there, and what might we do? So Mapleton's plan is significantly different than most everyone else in the metro area. We are a school district with very small high schools and very small groupings of middle school students. So in the other districts all around us, they have large comprehensive middle schools and large comprehensive high schools. And so their hybrid models are very different than ours. Our groups, our cohorting is very small, very small. Some of our cohorts are 12 kids. Some of our cohorts are as big as maybe 26, but they're very small cohorts. And so we're able to do this really differently than they are. We are continuing to monitor what's going on. I think in District 12, what I understand is that they are having multiple cases all at once, and including with their staff, which is limiting their ability to serve the students because they have so many staff members that are impacted that they're unable to serve the kids. Right this minute, we don't have that same experience. That doesn't mean we wouldn't, but right this minute we don't. I'm hoping that answers that. We are going to continue to monitor what we need to do. We have some values that we've, I guess, made our decisions on the whole time. We want to make sure that we honor the value we have in Mapleton of choice. We've always been a district that says a family's choice is a priority for us, and we're going to try to meet what it is you're asking us to do. So choice remains a priority for us, whether that's an in-person or a virtual environment. We want to listen to what it is you're asking for. Another is that predictability and that sustainability. Can we be predictable in the way that so you can plan what's going to happen? Right now, with groups going out the way they are, it's probably not feeling as predictable as we would like. Today, for example, we had, I think, 12 cohorts that had to roll to remote just today. And if those average around 20 people, that's a lot of kids, a lot of families that are impacted by this immediate decision to roll out. And so the board actually will be discussing this tomorrow night and looking at our values around how do we assure that our community and our schools are safe? How do we assure that we give our families kind of a predictable, sustainable product here, that they're able to plan their lives around the school environment? How do we assure that we can provide the service our community is asking us to provide, whether that's a remote option or an in-person option? So those are the questions we're grappling with as we speak, and we'll discuss them again tomorrow night with the board. Now, once we are able to use the data and continue to unpackage this and continue to figure out what is it that we need to do, we will make you aware as quickly as we possibly can around what that will look like. We're going to work very intentionally not to give you a one-day notice. If we decide we need to roll to remote for a little while, we're going to try to give you as much notice as possible so that you can make the decisions that you need to make. It is absolutely our intention that we will provide in-person learning second semester. Now, we are also hearing that you don't all want that, and some of you want the remote option, so we are absolutely committed to providing that to you as well. So we're going to work with you individually and say, if it's in person you want, here's what that could look like. If it is remote that you want, here's what that could look like. And we'll continue to work with our schools to figure that out. Cindy or Patty, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Sorry, managing the unmute button can prove challenging at times. Well, as Charlotte Chancho, as Superintendent Chancho has said, we're really trying to gather the information as best we can from you, the parents, of what it is you need, and try to respond to those needs as best we can, knowing all well we can't meet everyone exactly where they want to be, right? At some point there will be a decision that it might not be exactly what you want, but we're hoping to provide those opportunities. I've seen a couple of questions here as I've scrolled through asking, if we did go remote, would their students have to switch to the online Mapleton Online, or would they stay with their teachers? And that is something we're discussing, and I think the intention is that that online school is busy and full, very full now, and would look to have our current teachers who are teaching them in person work with them online. I can't say that we have it all planned out by any means, but again, trying to make those decisions based on the information we're receiving back from you, the parents, and meeting those needs for your children and your household.
Right, so it would not be our intent that if those of you who, this is what our survey was asking too, that we're trying to listen to what it is our community is telling us. Those of you who are already on Mapleton Online, there are about 1,700 kids on Mapleton Online, and so that is a large school. We don't want to add any additional students to that. As of today, I mean, I don't have all the, not everyone has filled out their information yet, but as of today, about 650, 700, I think maybe, people have responded to the survey. In that survey, it's averaging around 13% of people who are in bricks and mortar are saying, well, we think we want to do the online option for second semester. It's starting to get a little bit too much for us. That's 87% who want to stay in bricks and mortar, but about 13% saying they want to consider the online option. In that case, that would be a school by school implementation of that. So if there's a critical mass of kids at each school, then each school will offer that remote option. It would not be with Mapleton Online, it would be with their school. So hopefully that's answering that. So what we're trying to do, I'm seeing some comments about community spread and concern around that as well. In working with Dr. Douglas and Tri-County Health, because we are still seeing that the schools are not the place where transmission is occurring, then we're going to do everything we can to stay in person. If that comes to a point, again, where it's not predictable enough for families and we're seeing an increase that's creating too much movement and complications within the system, we may say, let's take a 2-week rolling remote. Let's all do a refresh, for example, and take this amount of time. So that's not something we've decided yet. It's something that we're in the process of having a conversation about. So we'll look at what's the data telling us? What do we need to do short term so that we can absolutely be back in person for those who want that second semester? Again, that's still being considered as of this moment. Let's see. Someone that is asking about preschool and COVID testing with preschool. Right now, COVID Check Colorado is really targeting kindergarten through 12th grade and not the preschoolers. I don't know that that will change if we get to do the saliva test or not, but right now they are not talking with us about preschool. With regard to preschool, it is absolutely, whether we end up rolling to remote for the K-12 setting, it will be our hope and our intention to keep the preschools open the best, as long as we can. Preschools are not, haven't rolled any preschools out yet. We haven't seen the transmission in the preschools. So if we can keep those preschools open, we will. I see questions about who's monitoring all this, and we have we call Carla Allenbach is one of our deputy superintendents. We refer to her as our COVID captain right now. We have a COVID response team, and you see Damon on the call tonight. Damon is part of that COVID response team, and so we spend a lot of time every single day trying to figure out how to keep kids as safe as possible, and when they need to roll out, and working with Tri-County to make sure that everything is going smoothly and kids are safe. So there are times that kids are riding the bus and they are the ones that test positive. This, I think, has happened 3 times now, that a student on the bus has tested positive, which then causes the kids that have been on the bus for more than 20 minutes with that student that tested positive to also have to roll out. The community's done a really beautiful job in making sure that, or in helping us, I guess, get kids to school, and fewer children are actually riding the bus. So it's very, very limited that we've had to do that. There are a lot of questions. I think we're over 100 questions now. And so what I want to be able to do is get the answers to all of these in writing so that you'll be able to look back from this call and have your questions answered, and make sure that we're attending to all of these. I'm still trying to see where there's a common thread, so hopefully I can attend to as many as possible. Let's see. So as of this point, there's some questions about teachers and when the teachers are moving to remote. So we've just barely tried this actually today. I think might have been one of the first times we tried it, maybe last week. But we're trying to see if a teacher has to roll to remote because they either have COVID and they're symptom free, or they were exposed to someone so they can't be in the building, but they have to roll to remote themselves and be quarantined. Can they still provide instruction to the kids with the kids in the building and not send the kids all to remote? So again, trying to make sure we're not creating this kind of unpredictable situation for the families, to stay as predictable as possible and keep the kids in school if we can. We're kind of just checking that, seeing if other people can supervise the kids. Can the teacher provide that instructional program even if they're off site? And we are, like I said, just checking that out to see if that's going to work or not. I did not get any feedback on that yet today, and so I'm I'm not sure what that's going to look like.
Charlotte, I saw a couple of comments, at least two, if not three, of parents saying they didn't get the survey, or could they access it somewhere? Do we have that online somewhere, that if they didn't receive it in their email? I know we told a few people to make sure you're checking your junk boxes and those email boxes, but is there a possibility that it can be put online for those folks?
They are specifically targeted for the kids in bricks and mortar, so it's not like an open survey. It's specific to families of kids who are in bricks and mortar. So we definitely want to make sure we try to get that back out again. We're using the email addresses we have in Infinite Campus. So I think I would ask that please check your Infinite Campus sign-on to make sure that that's correct, and we'll resend it again. We sent some out today, and we can send it as many times as we need to make sure people get it. Dr. Brown, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, there are some accounts that don't have an email associated with it. We're looking at an option to send it out via SMS, so it'll come to your cell phone. So please know that if you get a text from the district to your cell phone with a link in it, that it's probably the survey. So we'll look at that as an option also for families who we haven't seen open the link yet.
All right. Some are asking if it's possible to go remote between Christmas and Thanksgiving. All of those things are possible, but again, we're going to continue to study that and figure out what's the best plan after we are able to look at some new data that will come in tomorrow and have a conversation again with the Tri-County Health Department and look at our numbers. We will make these decisions as quickly as we can and get them to you as quickly as we can. With regard to sports and band and orchestra choir, the CHASA is still trying to figure out how and when kids can participate. Right now, CHASA is allowing students to engage with sports, but not allowing spectators through CHASA. We've decided as a Mapleton leadership group to not participate in the athletic programs because it crosses the cohorts in a pretty significant way. And the cohorts are key to the success for us. And so we're really, really trying to limit that amount of crossover. The performing arts is, those are both really important things for us, the athletic programs and performing arts. So it's a temporary halt on those until we can get a little bit safer. Cindy, did you want to respond to that?
Oh, sorry.
Oops, now you're muted. Now
I
you're,
apologize. I was reading and I thought I was on mute, so I apologize.
That's all right. So I'm also seeing some questions about exploring the idea of hybrid. And yes, we have explored the idea of hybrid, but again, it's not in our context. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to do a hybrid model. Our cohorts are very, very small. In the large comprehensive high schools, they're doing a hybrid where half their kids come a couple of days and half their kids come the other couple of days, depending on the size of their high schools. Our schools are very, very small. We have high schools with as few as 60 kids in them. And some, I mean, our largest high schools right now have fewer than 400 kids in them, like 300 and something. So a hybrid model for us doesn't really guarantee that anybody is any safer. And it doesn't seem to be what the community at large has asked us to do with keeping students in person. So although we've looked at it, it's not really something that we've considered as being a legitimate way to do it here in Mapleton. So I think, yeah, Yeah, some of these are really specific. Some of your questions are very specific to your individual schools. And so we'll make sure we get that information to you with regard to your individual schools. But I wanted, again, to be able to have the other information. One of the questions I'm seeing up here a couple of times is about, again, if the governor is asking us to cancel everything, why wouldn't schools go remote? On the dial, and actually I have a meeting scheduled with the governor's office on Thursday, so that should hopefully give me more information with regard to the governor's office. But in the most recent meeting that I was in last week, I think it was last Thursday, with Tri-County Health and Dr. Douglas, he was very, very explicit that public schools in Colorado in this metro area are very, very safe. There is not transmission occurring within the school boundaries, within our actual schools. The transmissions are coming in because they're coming in from the outside, but they are not transmitting among the students or the staff within a school. So feeling like, even on the dial, schools, now this is what I heard in the meeting from Dr. Douglas, schools are considered an essential service. And so because schools are an essential service and we are not transmitting, that there wouldn't be a recommendation that we have to close. So although before it said remote or hybrid recommended, that's been removed from the Tri-County dial, and they're no longer necessarily recommending that. Now, if the school were to, the state were to go to a, so that everybody a stay-at-home order, that might be something a little bit different, but right now we're not at a stay-at-home order. And again, we're able to really manage this today in a pretty safe way. And we're gonna just continue to watch what's happening, monitor what's happening in the classrooms and move from there. So let's see. So I think this might be.
Really quick, one of the questions was, are the school board meetings open to the public? And yes, they are. They are public meetings. We meet on the 4th Tuesday of the month. We have been meeting in person here in the boardroom. We do maintain social distance. We do wear masks. We've asked anyone who does attend to also wear a mask, and you'll have to sit so socially distanced. Now, if we had too many people come, then we would have to address that differently from a, being in person. I will share that on occasion we've had 1 or 2 board members maybe be remote for whatever reason, if they happen to be out of, for traveling purposes to get here on time or whatever. So we do have that as well. But yes, they are definitely public, and we welcome you to come and join the board meeting. Those that information is posted on the website as well, right, when those meetings are and what time.
All right. So I think with that, I'm gonna kind of go through all these again. We'll make sure we get responses to you. There are quite a few questions, so I may not be able to get them all done this evening, but we'll get them to you as quickly as we can so that you can all see one another's questions and see one another's responses, and we'll kind of go from there. Really appreciate that so many of you have tuned in this evening and have been willing to listen with us and understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. If you haven't received a survey, we are going to send those out again. If you still don't, please contact your school, because your school should have your correct information. If you don't receive it, again, please contact your school and make sure we send that out to you so we can listen to what it is you need and be able to serve our community. So with that, I think we're going to say goodnight, and thank you also very much for investing an hour with us.